From packing a diverse and realistic cast to play survivors of a plane crash, to a major character asking the showrunners to kill him off, here's how the on-set controversy on Lost completely changed the show. Proceed with caution, because the scandalous inside deets of this iconic TV series will shock you. See, when Lost first hit the screens in 2004, the diverse cast and the well-scripted twists of the island had everyone hooked. It's not every day that you find Black, Korean, Latino, and Arab characters in the same show, and that too, as regular cast members. Given the show's premise of an international flight crashing on a strange island, it only made sense that the survivors were a random mix of people. But Lost went one step ahead and gave the selected group of survivors their own episodes with flashbacks, and in later seasons, even flash-forwards. Fans loved the series' format of alternating episodes with a different character's point of view. This way, everyone got a backstory, and the same screen time, so no character really felt like a token representation. But one actor has come forward with a shocking revelation, and the biggest question is, was this decade-defining hit of the 2000s a cesspool of racism? Enter Harold Perrineau, who played Michael. Everyone noticed that his character began to fade into the background as the first 2 seasons rolled on. Well, turns out there's a juicy reason behind that, and it's exactly what you're thinking. In a shocking reveal, Perrineau shared that the showrunners turned his character into the black guy, while other characters got all the attention. Harold, who's currently leading the MGM plus sci-fi horror series, From, has definitely made his mark as more than a token cast. Headway into its second season, From sees the actor step into the role of a town sheriff and an estranged father, making him a solid driving force for the entire show. But his experience on the set of Lost saw him sparring with the writers on how to portray a black father. It all began when in Season 2, Malcolm David Kelly, who played Michael's son Walt, hit a dramatic growth spurt. The poor kid aged 2 years over one summer. This didn't fit the storyline, where Walt had been on the island for just 44 days by the end of Season 1. But if you're wondering how a global mind-bending hit like Lost handled this problem, you're in for a surprise. Remember when the mysterious others kidnapped Walt? Yes, that's why that whole arc was scripted. The writers didn't bother coming up with any cool explanation within their supernatural world. Instead, they made the kid disappear until his growth spurt would make sense. No one could have guessed that the intense kidnapping scene happened for this reason. But the plot thickens. The thing is, Perrineau wasn't thrilled with how Michael showed so little concern for his missing son, and he made sure to let the big men know. He told them straight up, "I'm here to work. I'll do anything you want, except be the black guy on your show." The writing was already on the wall in the second season, and then Harold was told that he wouldn't be back for Season 3. According to what I've heard one of the show's executives say, "Well, you said if we don't have anything good for you, you want to go, so we're letting you go." If that wasn't petty enough, Damon Lindelof, one of the show's co-creators, wrote Perrineau off the show for calling him racist. A moment of silence for Damon's wisdom, because what better way there could be to handle racism allegations than to fire the guy for making them? And it gets worse. During a discussion about a character's death, another executive producer, Carlton Cuse, offered a bizarre idea that sounded like a depiction of a lynching. Despite the showrunner's poor plan for Michael, Harold charmed everyone with his stellar performance. He brought depth and complexity to whatever he was given. Not to mention, his relationship with his son was a tear-jerking focal point on the island. After all, that was the only father-son relationship fans got from the survivors, aside from Locke and Jack's daddy issues. It makes sense now why Perrineau's character suddenly got so desperate to find his boy. But here's the kicker. The actor only asked for a better arc for Kelly's character. But was it really necessary to make him the bad guy? To the point where he killed off 2 other survivors, in a deal he struck with the others? Turning him into a villain only fits the narrative if you're hell-bent on kicking out Harold. By the end of Season 2, the father-son duo did get a bittersweet ending, where the 2 left the island on a boat after turning in Jack, Kate, and Sawyer to the enemy. If that didn't leave the fans infuriated, the Lost team couldn't even make Michael a good villain. Not to mention that clunky glimpse of Walt in the distant future that randomly came in every other episode. At one point, the kid even appeared as a ghost to guide Locke when everyone thought the 2 had left the island, only for a Kevin Johnson to return in Season 4, played by no other than Perrineau. By that time, both fans and survivors on the island hated him for buying his way out after killing Ana Lucia and Libby. Remember how Libby was on her way to meet Hurley for a romantic date right when Michael shot her? Talk about heartbreaking. So it's no surprise that no one was thrilled to see him return incognito. And then it was revealed that he was on the freighter as Ben Linus's spy. Forget a redemption arc. Lindelof must have really hated the guy to recast him as the enemy's sidekick. Look, Ben was an A-grade manipulator who convinced the poor man that helping him was the only way to make amends. What's insane is that his Season 4 return felt perfect in the Grand Lossverse. But on his own, the new arc didn't do his character any favors. All of Michael's flashbacks showed that his relationship with Walt was done for good. Consumed by his guilt over what he did to recover his son, he returned to the island to do the others' bidding. Which is tragic, since his whole conflict with the executives was over his role as a black parent. What's worse, he was killed off in an explosion just 5 episodes after his return. This could have worked to develop his character. After all, he tried to stop the C4 from detonating to save everyone. But dying in an explosion, while the Oceanic Six escaped, was a bit too harsh for karma. And that wasn't even the end of it. Because of his crimes, the island didn't let him move on, and his spirit was left to wander around. It's hard to say anymore if that's what the script had in store, or if it's another stunt born out of a beef between the show's executives and its cast. And after what happened to Adewale Akinnuoye Agbaji's character, everyone's shocked at how the series felt so perfect, even with all the drama going on. See, when Lost's second season hit the screens, viewers were introduced to the enigmatic Mr. Echo, a survivor from the tail section of the ill-fated Oceanic Airlines Flight 815. With his captivating backstory and a mesmerizing performance by Adewale, it was no surprise that Mr. Echo quickly became a fan favorite. Everyone was all thirsty for the gangsta-turned man of God. But just as fans were getting hooked on his presence, the writers threw everyone for a loop. In a move that left jaws dropping, the beloved character was killed off unexpectedly early on in Season 3. What's worse, Mr. Echo was brutally beaten to death by the infamous smoke monster. Now that's not the first or the worst death on the show. With a homicidal island, you kinda get used to it. But here's where it gets even more mind-boggling. Turns out, the Lost creative team didn't want to let Mr. Echo go either. They had big plans for his character. And his story arc was expected to span a whopping 4 seasons. If not for real-life circumstances in the way, Adewale's character was written for some real epic moments. Damon's confirmed that Mr. Echo was to be the original smoke monster. Who would have thought? After all, Locke really had a thing for the island, so him being the spirit entity was the perfect twist. No offense to Adewale, but the actor hadn't fully committed to the role from the get-go. Between seasons 2 and 3, the actor approached Lindelof and Hughes with a surprising request. He wanted out. That's right, he asked to be written off the island. Turns out he really hated Hawaii where the series was filmed, or maybe he also had a bone to pick about his arc. No one can tell. And there you have it, folks, from a major character asking the showrunners to kill him off, to packing a diverse and realistic cast to play survivors of a plane crash. That's how the on-set controversy on Lost completely changed the show.